Kid Jerome here. I'm working my way through 1001 albums you must hear before you die, and the 24th one is Me Against the World. Me Against the World is the third album released by West Coast rap deity Tupac, released in March of 1995. The album starts with this very effective intro that contextualizes what Tupac's life was at the time. It's not a song, it's a collection of news clips that highlight very significant events in this rapper's career. We have the Manhattan studio shooting, where he was shot several times but survived. We have him checking himself out of the hospital earlier than advised. We have Tupac being dismissed of some very serious assault allegations. There is a lot weighing on this rapper's mind, and it really bleeds through in the music. So to have it all presented to you at the very beginning of the album is a very effective technique, and it's kind of a flex. It's kind of a huge flex, just starting with all these news broadcasts. I mean, he was so in the public eye, so influential at the time that he had the world talking about him. The bread and butter of this album is G-Funk, a style of music that was very popular on the West Coast around this time period, pioneered by people like Snoop Dogg and, of course, Tupac. G-Funk is distinct in that it's very focused on the bass. It's very focused on, of course, funk stylings, like from funk music. So we'll have these very low bass lines that establish sort of the rhythm and the melodic context of the songs. Like on So Many Tears, we have this bass line that is just really holding the song together. On It Ain't Easy, the bass dances around the melody, really fleshing the song out, giving it more context. A lot of these songs tend to be a little bit more laid back because of the slow bass, the lower tempos, and it gives Tupac the space he really needs to say what's on his mind, to really just rap, you know? He's not trying to keep up with the track at any point in time. It more so feels like the track's trying to keep up with him, but it doesn't seem out of place. He really feels at home on his G-Funk beats. The bass also serves as somewhat of the main line on some of these songs, really establishing the melody. Like Heavy in the Game is entirely held up by the bass, and then Fuck the World has this low bass supporting the rhythm, you know, establishing melodic context, where we have this more mid bass, this more slappy bass during the hook that really establishes the melody. This is the lead line of the song. But at other times, and I'd say more often, we have these more high-pitched, high-register, synthesized woodwinds, these flute sounds that establish the melody, these really whistly sounds that are unanimous with Dr. Dre's music, you know? On Me Against the World, we have this synth whistle during the hook that really just sort of serves like punctuation for the song. It makes the song 10 times catchier. It's the part that stands out to you. It's the part that you remember. On So Many Tears, the melodic refrain during the hook really contextualizes the rest of the song. It comes in after he says the hook, after he says the line, and it's very appropriate. It definitely adds depth to the track. Now that we've established sort of where the songs live, let's talk about the main attraction, Tupac. Wow, what a legend. I mean, it's no surprise that a rapper like this had so much influence on music in his day. His voice is very convicted. He's very aggressive but confident. Everything he says, he believes, and you can tell his delivery feels like he's spitting out every single word. On If I Die Tonight, the verses are hard, even though the song is a little bit more laid back. Death Around the Corner has more of this aggressive but laid back sound. It's interesting how he can put his foot in both puddles without it sounding out of place. His lyrical content largely centers around his complicated relationship with death. Growing up where he did, in the time period he did, in the tax bracket he did, he's seen a lot of death at a very young age. A lot of things that most people wouldn't want to see. On If I Die Tonight, he said, I'm seeing cemetery photos of my peers, conversating like they're still here. If I die tonight. He goes on to say, I hope they bury me and send me to my rest. Headlines reading murdered to death, my last breath. just very, very worried about how his story is going to end, very aware of the danger he's putting himself in with his lifestyle. And it's unfortunate considering how his life did end in a very, very violent gang retaliation. Lord Knows outlines further how his overexposure to death is really weighing on him. You can tell it's really stressing him out in very serious ways. He says, damn, another funeral, another motherfucker, and drive-by's an everyday thing. I done lost too many homies to this motherfucking game. He even hints towards being suicidal, saying, I smoke a blunt to take the pain out, and if I wasn't high, I'd probably try to blow my brains out. He goes on to say, I had to tell him it was all right, and that's a lie, and he knew it when he shook and died. My God. It's horrific what he had to go through. It really is. And it's no surprise that these experiences really traumatized him. I'm getting a lot of PTSD from these bars. I just don't really know what to say other than it's a tragedy that our country allowed these kinds of things to happen, that these kinds of experiences are so commonplace that so many people could relate to these lyrics. Tupac is absolutely a street poet, someone talking about his reality and shedding a light on things that really deserve a light to be shed on, things that really need to be talked about, socioeconomic issues that we really need to address. Tupac served as a mouthpiece, and he still serves as a conversation piece for these problems. Something I really appreciated about Tupac compared to a lot of modern rappers is how cohesive his lyrics are, how they all go together, how they tell a story. Even when they're not telling a story, they're fitting the same theme. He never really goes off topic. There's a lot of braggadocious lyrics now, a lot of off-topic lyrics, but Tupac is really trying to get his message through. He's trying to tell his story a lot of the time. Me Against the World is the song where he just talks about how he feels like everyone's against him, how he feels like he's gone through so many bad experiences. He feels like it's never going to stop. And every bar, every line is appropriate for the story. Everything serves to flesh out the story more, to really expand the narrative. Dear Mama is an absolutely beautiful song. It's a love letter to his mother, talking about how much he appreciates her despite his troubled upbringing. We have some absolutely heart-wrenching bars on here, such as, and even as a crack fiend, mama, you always was a black queen, mama. I finally understand, for a woman it ain't easy trying to raise a man. It's tough. It's tough being raised by a parent that's addicted to drugs. I mean, I could only imagine what he was going through at that point in time, but for him to have this level of maturity, in hindsight, to be able to look at her situation for what it was and understand that she had to go through her own things as well. It's honestly mind-blowing, the level of maturity he was able to speak with. He goes on to say, and there's no way I can pay you back, but my plan is to show you that I understand. You are appreciated. Wow. Unfortunately, sometimes the tracks feel like they're really dragging on. Not a single track on this album has less than 3 verses. It's commonplace nowadays to have 2 verses, sometimes even 1 if the verse is really long or very punchy. Songs trend between about 2 and 3 minutes, but this album, every song feels like it's pushing the 4-minute mark. Some songs push the 5-minute mark. God, some songs have 4 verses. Old School and Fuck the World are examples of this, and they just feel too long sometimes. They really overstay their welcome occasionally. On Temptation, the hook really drags on. They could have cut the second half of the hook entirely, and it wouldn't have changed the song in any bad ways, right? We absolutely did not need 4 verses on this song, especially considering how slow it is and how long the hook drags on, and we definitely did not need an outro. The outro was egregious. There's plenty of egregious outros on this album, unfortunately. Lord Knows has another one of these minute-long outros that even includes another repetition of the hook. I feel like this outro could have been 20 seconds and it would have been fine. I feel like it was necessary, but damn, did it have to be a minute long? Did we have to have an outro that lasted this long and added nothing significant to the track? I'm not going to fault him too much for this because this was very much the style back then. I mean, if we're going to talk about how long these rap songs are, we got to take a second to talk about how long the rock songs were. God, there were 7-minute songs back then. So many long songs. Metallica was a chronic offender. We had Pink Floyd releasing the longest songs you've ever heard, right? I mean, I'm not going to put all the blame on Tupac here, but I will say music's gotten a lot better over the years. Me Against the World is one of the most influential influential albums of all time. Countless rappers have cited Tupac as one of their biggest inspirations. While some of the songs drag on and may not hold up by today's standards, his energy is undeniable and his legacy will live on forever. Some songs that really stuck out to me were Me Against the World, It Ain't Easy, and Dear Mama. I would recommend this album to people who want to learn more about where rap came from and aspiring rappers. There's a lot to be learned here. I'm gonna give the album a solid 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about the album in the comments below. Make sure you leave a like if you appreciated anything I had to say or if you appreciate Tupac. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my next video where I'm going to be reviewing Nielsen Schmielsen by Harry Nielsen. Yeah, that's a real album. So until then, peace.